What a spot as we watch Harry Bates flying past on the final stage of the day of the middle of everywhere Gippsland rally. And I feel like we've come to a fantastic spot to watch this stage, Dean.
We're about a kilometre in from the last stage of the day, so SS8, they've repeated this stage. It's been an interesting rally so far, but yeah, what an awesome spot through here. You can sort of see the swept line on the road and stuff like that, so as you do the second pass, it's a little more grippy, and like I said, Harry's been doing a great job today.
Absolutely. Now, when we checked in with the competitors earlier today, a lot of them were saying that the conditions were a lot trickier than they were expecting. A lot more damp patches. I think it was Lewis who said it was about 70% wet, 30% dry. So that is not what they were expecting, and certainly not what we can see evidence of here in this specific spot.
No, this one's quite dry and hard packed, but you can imagine when you added water to it. So it was actually probably stage 3, the stage prior to this, that caught them out a little bit in regards to the surface being different. Luke and said you could pick it a little bit as you approached it, so it wasn't sort of one of those things that caught you out fully, but as you can see here now, a nice swept line. I actually had Bernie Webb, spoke to him at the service, and he said, I'm seeing their car 6, everybody in the right place, a line being created, etc. So from that point of view, yeah, everyone's dialed in, and like I said, second pass is going well.
So do you expect that stage 3 in particular would be easier on the second pass, given that we've now got that swept line coming through and it's a bit more predictable?
Yeah, now that it's obviously they've done a run and we've had no weather. If it's been raining today, or during the lunchtime service or something like that, yes, potentially it could be trickier. But now they would have noted those bits, and if you can read the road, like Luke said, it'd probably be a bit better the second time through.
Now let's have a look at the form that we've been seeing today. Harry Bates, after not being the fastest car on the road for the first stage, has taken a very convincing lead as we come into this final stage of the day.
Yeah, it looks like he's about a minute up with this stage to run. Unfortunate news coming through, we don't know exactly what the issue is Nathan Quinn, and the gap we've got. We would have expected to see Nathan Quinn. He was second on the road, although car 3, we haven't seen him come through yet. So ultimately, yeah, there's obviously a bit of an issue going on there for Quinny. He'll drop back. He was in a good battle with Lewis and Eddie Maguire, close to them as well. So that was a battle pack.
The person who we were hoping to see putting in a really strong performance today, and who did start off the day really well, was Scott Pedder. After in the first live of today, he did have a little hiccup on the start line with a stall, but then bounced back to win that first stage of the day by an incredible 7 seconds after wasting probably about at least 5 seconds on the start line.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to drive angry, and he probably did. He did a fantastic job. I haven't spoken to him yet and seen exactly what the issue was, but obviously a drama in SS2. I think they went wide, broke a steering arm or something like that, so unfortunate. And we talked about this enduro side. Tomorrow he'll hopefully come back and we'll see some of his form. So change of rhythm tomorrow. The stages are very different, so it'll be interesting to see how he tackles those stages. But he won't feature in the results at all. It might have been different if it was a heat or a sprint format like our first 3 rounds. He could have maybe won the heat or put some pressure on from that point of view. He'll ultimately be trying to take stage wins and maybe do the power stage and stuff like that. But yeah, it shows that he's still got the class, and we know that car's very good clearly. Yeah, just a bit of an unfortunate off on stage 2.
Really hoping to see him put in a strong performance tomorrow if they can get that car fixed. Now, the interesting impact on that could have been the championship, but because somebody coming in for a one-off round who was good enough to take those championship points off those leading cars.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously at the moment, we've talked all season about Lewis, playing the long game. It's Harry who's chasing. Now he's got the lead. This actually sounds like Lewis coming potentially, so we suspect Quinny's still got some more major dramas. That's a big dent for his championship hopes. Queensland netted really no points, etc. So let's see who comes through here now. And and right behind him, so Jeff's graphic example, Quinny short shifting, having an issue, and this is about 15 kilometres. Lewis now in his dust, so that's what happens. You have to deal with that, unfortunately, in these situations, but Lewis will be not entirely happy. He had Eddie Maguire probably within 10 or 15, I think, leading into this stage, so he could lose a bunch of time being stuck in Quinny's dust.
Absolutely, and I was just thinking about that. The impact of the dust when you're that close to the car in front would be massive on a stage like this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, even though it's, if it was wet, he could have clear vision. Quinny would would be looking out. It's sort of one of the things you do for each other is try not to hamper the times, etc. We're only about sort of 700 metres, so Quinny's probably been keeping an eye on it. There's also rally safe technology now that can give them a bit of information. Ray would be looking at that in the passenger seat, and obviously nothing coming through. But that means, you know, Quinny's lost at least 2 minutes coming through this stage in regards to some more time loss. You know, he'll still be able to salvage some points from this weekend if they can fix it in the service tonight.
So we're just getting some times through now. We know that Harry so far is leading that stage. He did it in 7 minutes and 54 seconds. And then only 2.4 seconds behind him was Lewis, even despite those difficulties that we were just talking about, which shows that Lewis has really kind of ramped it up in these stages this afternoon.
That means he's attacked through there, and that's pretty impressive actually. And look, Harry's playing a long game now. He has to be through tomorrow. He doesn't just net it now, so he's got a minute gap. But that's pretty impressive. You know, and Lewis kept it straight. You can make a mistake through here in the dust as well and go out or go wide or have an issue. So a good run from him. And like we said, that means now that probably Quinny's now something like 4 odd minutes off the lead or thereabouts.
Yes, yeah. So he's almost 5 minutes off the lead after dropping another 2 minutes on that stage. So it'll be interesting to catch up with him later on and understand what those issues are. Hopefully it's not more reoccurrences of what we saw in Gympie, because we know that that was very frustrating for him.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, he'll be disappointed. It sounded like he short shifted to me, so I'm not sure exactly what the issue is. The car, it's clearly sort of mechanical he's limping through with, so. Real high speed section through here, Jess. Through here is probably in my notes be a left 4. You know, my car probably would be a 3rd, plucking into 4th gear over this crest, which is pretty much flat out. It's probably got a slight sort of right hand kick to it, but then a straight run up to that right hander at the top there. Lucaneer in now obviously 4th on the road. That's where Scott Petter was seated. Obviously they've closed that gap up at the lunchtime service to sort of put the all the gaps together again. First time for him and Malcolm here. He's won a stage last round. Obviously had an incident, unfortunately saw them not get into heat 2. But I think he's been pretty impressive today, and he'll find himself in a pretty good outright spot by the end of the day. So he's played it correct, this one.
It was probably a case coming out of the last round at Gympie of making sure that he was getting through the stages, because he did come out of the gates flying at Gympie with that stage win, as you said. But unfortunately, it came a cropper very soon after. So it will be a case of trying to do the best that he can. But having said that, we've just got his stage time through, and he is a mere 3/10 behind Harry on that stage, which is incredible.
But that's the way to do it. He's actually, so Scott Petter's done a Lucaneer from the first one. Won the first stage, then had an off. Luke's done it the right way, and obviously now gaining, second pass, gaining some confidence. I suspect that either Harry's had a small issue or just played the game to go. We've just got to bank this, keep the stages rolling through, limit the time loss, etc. In regards to or having any issues. And like I said, Luke's a little bit off in regards to Lewis, but ultimately pushing through here, which is great.
Luke got his first ARC podium earlier this year, and that's probably what he'll have in mind for this weekend as well, as he's now sitting 3rd overall at the moment. We've obviously still got a few more cars to come through and a big day of rallying tomorrow, but I should think he's just trying to chip away. The experience that he gained last year doing plenty of rounds of the WRC would have been invaluable, and now he's got a very experienced co-driver in Malcolm Reed by his side, which will only be playing to his strengths.
Oh, absolutely. Now 4 rounds in, they're starting to gel better. This is a brand new round for them, like I said, so the fact that they're going this fast early is good. Eddie Maguire is probably going to be next through here, and he is in line for another podium as well. So I think the battle will be Lewis and Eddie for those sort of remaining spots on the podium, and then also depending where Luke ends up. Clearly one car out on my numbers there. That's obviously Troy Dow running through in the new Ford. I think Eddie's the next seated in there. Rough run so far for Troy again. Puncher early on, but learning a new car again.
Absolutely. There's a lot on his plate this weekend. Brand new car. He could have lost a bit of confidence at the last round when he did have those major issues with that Mitsubishi that is now being run by his father on this round. So it's good to see him putting in a consistent day to day and just chipping away at it apart from that puncture. And having caught up with him earlier, he said he wasn't entirely sure what even caused that puncture. He said they didn't hit anything, but also there were quite a few cars that came through when we saw them at the end of this stage earlier this morning that had damage, particularly to the right front corner, and they weren't even sure how that had happened.
This is a fairly wide bit of road actually, so some of the shrubs and things you see when it narrows up, and tomorrow particularly I think we'll see that even more. But like you said, I think for him now is just about getting some kilometres, okay, that punches out of the way now, and just be a consistent day and just get the Ks up.
Now, Troy's time has come through. He is 19.8 seconds behind Harry. So that's
just over a second a K. And that's
yes.
not too bad for an afternoon run, and I think that's a solid way to finish the day off for him. So.
Absolutely. As we said, brand new car. He's changed cars a fair bit so far this year. This is round 4 and only his 3rd car that he's driving. So there's been plenty to take in this year, that's for sure.
And difficult to get used to. Eddie said that about the R5 car. Like I said, he was adapting and changing cars a lot in the early part of the season, particularly the production cars. Actually took him a little bit of time to get used to the R5 car. I reckon it's Eddie coming through now. Probably hear that attacking style here. He's going to be pushing pretty hard. So you just saw there a little bit more attitude on the exit of that corner. It's quite quick, but had a bit more attitude in there than Troy. So I suspect his time will be up there towards the pointy end.
Yeah, very good to see Eddie continuing to find his feet, or I should say his wheels maybe, in that Skoda R5. And yeah, having come out strongly in that car was really, really impressive. Having been so good in production cars and taken such a massive change in machinery, how well he did in Gympie was really impressive.
I think the thing about it is, though, that he's using this as his learning year. I mean, pretty impressive learning year when, podium last time in a podium result at the moment. So from that point of view, he's doing a really solid job, but just doing it the right way. It shows his experience. You don't win events like Targa Tasmania if you don't know what you're doing. It's a long event. You have to pick the right thing. A lot to do with, change of conditions and things like that. So he's a smart, intelligent driver, and I think that's showing.
Now, 5.6 seconds off of Harry. That was Eddie's time. And that puts him in 4th for the stage. And we'll take a look at what that means for the overall results.
I'm guessing he'll be 3rd. He's probably just a little bit off Harry potentially.
Yes, 3rd at the moment. So Luke is actually 40 seconds behind Eddie Maguire. So even though Luke was very strong through that stage, there's obviously a lot of catching up to do tomorrow if Luke does want that overall podium. But Eddie is just playing that same game that he played in Gympie of just consistently getting through the stage, getting through the stages, and banking those solid times to be in there when it matters.
He was close to Lewis early in the loop. I think he's fallen away a little bit now. Like you said, Luke's now attacking him a little bit. At the moment with the 40 seconds, you've got 60 kilometres tomorrow. Luke would have to keep on a bit of a charge to try and get, if they all stayed equal and no dramas. But tomorrow, like I said, change of rhythm, very different to what we're seeing here, where it's flowing and a bit more high speed. Tomorrow's a real change of rhythm, really narrow and tight and technical. So it'll be interesting to see what style that suits. It could go either way with them.
Yes, absolutely. As I think we're going to see Alex Rillo coming through now.
Just notice a couple of bites, obviously a bit hard with the dust there, a couple of bites. It's just showing that he's still getting used to the car. Those sort of dabs on the brakes, he's sort of feeling where the car's at and which way to manoeuvre it. But once again, another new rally for him. The car's coming on strong. He actually said to me yesterday or last night that he actually tested his dad's Peter's car in the shakedown. They've got some slightly different suspension set up that he quite liked. So he said, trying to find that window for a brand new car is interesting. And he said, I quite liked what that car felt like. I'll have to try and translate it to my car. But like I said, as far as a trouble-free run, touch wood's only a few hundred metres away from the finish. It's just probably his best banked day. He's got speed and he showed speed on stages, but we've had a drama with the back end or having a suspension problem. Here he'll bank a solid day and like I said, learning from that, and he'll be in a good position. So I think fifth position through there potentially. So.
And that's really what he needs. He needs to be building that experience and building that confidence as we see that he's come in 5th for that stage at the moment, 16 seconds off of Harry in the lead.
That's good. That's a second okay. So like I said, I think Harry's definitely slowed it up a bit. He's got a minute lead in the overall rally, but like I said, you can see there's a little battle pack forming there, and if he brings that form into tomorrow, you'll see him in and amongst the times of potentially Luke and Eddie and those sorts of people. So.
Now let's touch upon Harry's position, because he has put in a solid performance today, and he said himself, he's not going flat out because these conditions, he just can't do that. But he's got that minute lead under his belt because there is no reset tomorrow, because it's an endurance format. That minute lead is so valuable for him. He doesn't have to put himself under that pressure in order to try and get that rally win now. He can, I don't want to say cruise because it's never cruising on these roads, but he certainly won't be thinking about going as flat out as he would need to if it were a sprint format.
Well, it's the perfect day. At the end of the day, yes, it's hard to lead from the front, and as you say, you've got to now tackle these tricky stages, but he'll sleep well. He couldn't have done any better, and you've got a gap. Normally what would happen, you'd bank the day's results, that's awesome, and then you start with that same nervous energy for the next day. It's just a different feeling. This is what you get in Asia Pacific Championship rounds, it's what you get in particularly WRC when you're doing 3 days, is that you have to then manage your pace and your lead, and that's a different experience for a lot of the drivers. So I'm a bit surprised at the gaps. The road, like I said, obviously the inconsistency of the roads maybe caused that, but to have a minute lead after roughly 100 Ks, and particularly on someone like Lewis who's in good form, and Eddie, that's a really good effort by Harry today.
Now, it was actually this rally last year when Harry's bad run of form started, which was very unfortunate, and it started with a mechanical drama, so certainly nothing within his control on that one. And then there was all this talk of him having a slump in form, and has he lost his mojo? Of course he hasn't. That talent is still there and it didn't go anywhere. It was just a combination of so many things that just didn't go quite right for him on each day of the rally, and it's been really good to see him get that form back and get the results back that he's actually deserved, because we saw in WA, not winning that rally was by no fault of his own. So it was really good in Gympie also to see how much it meant to him, particularly that E-Road Power Stage win as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see you've got a bit more of a pep when you step in it. Like I said, not to do with Harry, we're probably a bit harsh saying he's out of form. It's probably the combination of him and the car, etc. The change. But you can sort of see it's come on. He's always had the pace. He just needs to bank the results. Though it hasn't really been talked about because no one really knew at the time. He was very lucky to get that result in Queensland. They actually had a mechanical issue or a head drama with that car at the end of the rally, like right at the end. So he's been unlucky at the beginning of the season. That was lucky, banked the result, power stage win, and that form's clearly continued.
Now, the next car that we thought that we'd be seeing through was Daniel Gonzalez, but of course he's had an issue with his throttle cable. So unfortunately, that's him done for the day.
Yeah, potentially even a broken throttle itself, pedal potentially. So I'll be interested if he can get back out there, but we won't see him coming through. That's the Luff brothers instead, who have had another good day. They were, showing pace. I think early in the season, getting used to the car, going to some rallies they hadn't done, had moved from production to an outright, car, built by the Neil Bates Motorsport team. That's taken some time to get used to. And out of the blocks this morning was 4th quickest, which was really impressive. So, during the day has probably, back in the mid-pack a little bit or the mid of the top 10, but that's a really good day. They just wanted to have a trouble-free one today, which it looks like they might have done.
Certainly deserved it. They've been working hard with that car. They've been working hard together. They've come up being brothers. They've come up through rallying together, and it's really good to see them now chipping away and getting those consistent stage times that they were chasing at the start of the year when they knew that they had that good machinery. And it probably would have been a lot of pressure going, oh, well, we've come from what we know, and now there's a lot of pressure on us being now a Neil Bates Motorsport customer and having one of these cars that we know is a consistent winner, and dealing with that pressure and then learning everything as they go together. It's really good to see them come together.
Well, particularly out of the Subaru, they were impressive in the Subaru because it wasn't the major spec Subaru production car, and they were sort of probably punching above their weight. So then you hop in a frontline car, you're sort of you're measured on that.
So we see there that Jamie and Brad Luff have gone P5 for the stage at the moment, 15.3 seconds behind Harry's time of 7 minutes 54.
But how close are all the others? Like you said, we're comparing to Harry's time as the fastest, but there is a whole group of them there that are very, very, very close.
Now we're heading into production car territory now. We're expecting to see Bodie Reading come through. We were hoping that production car battle would be just as close this round as it has been the others, but unfortunately Steve Maguire, who's on Bodie's heels, has had some issues, particularly in this morning stages.
Yeah, it looks like he might have dropped 5th gear. He's still limping through, but dropping time to Bodie. Let's have a listen to this old Subaru. This is probably some people's favourite sounding car in the field. So older spec Subaru, doesn't have some of the variable cam timing and things, has a really boxer note that I think we came to love with that sort of era of Subarus. Geez, he's doing a good job. He's been impressive all year, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. He did have a difficult round over at WA. That was, of course, the round that he wasn't expecting to be at, and then everything came together and Neil Bates Motorsport chipped in to help him get across from Tasmania, and it's been really good to see him get the rest of the rounds so far this year under his belt, and it came together at Gympie. It was so good to see a smile back on his face at Gympie after he had such a strong showing at Launceston and then had those difficulties. He just didn't. The roads at WA were so far different to what he was used to that it was a massive learning curve.
Yeah, very difficult for a production car to be able to sort of run, I guess, with what we see as Rally 2 and AP4 and those sorts of cars, because the suspension travels more. As you see, it's an older generation car. It doesn't have the suspension travel or the diff technology that some of those have. So WA probably offers up some rougher roads. Through here, he can get his groove on a little bit, and I think you see him being more competitive outright.
So Bodie delivered a 7th best time for the stage at the moment, and that sees him 6th overall for the day. He is 4 minutes and 22 seconds behind Harry in the lead. So while we've got the times in front of us, let's have a quick look at the overall time. So we've got Harry, who has a time of 1 hour and 14 seconds at the moment, and Lewis is 1 minute and 3 seconds behind, and Eddie is a further 30 seconds behind Lewis.
And then I think we've got Anir there, then the Luff brothers, of course, and then you were mentioning before there about Bodie Reading. And then Alex Rouleau, who took off, obviously went the wrong way on a junction early on stage 1, so he's recovering back from that and learning at the same time. So, like I said, probably bigger gaps than I was expecting, but all the right people in the mix.
Absolutely. Now, I think we're expecting Steve Maguire through next, so it will be, hopefully, he has managed to fix those issues in service and he hasn't had too much of a difficult afternoon.
Definitely sounds like he's attacking, that's for sure. I'm only guessing because I don't think you could fix 5th gear, but I reckon he held the gear. I don't know, I'm not much of a Mitsubishi guy, but potentially holding it through and on these fast stages to be penalised. Depending what that is or isn't doing in the car, he could actually get away with that tomorrow when it's a lot twistier. You know, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th you've got. I felt like compared to some of the other guys, you might have plucked another gear just before that right-hander. He seemed to hold on to it there, but pushing in the bits that he can.
Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon, and don't forget that you can keep up with all of the results at the Rally Results Hub on rally.com.au, and you'll get plenty of content from the weekend on the ARC social channels. But make sure that you tune in to 7 Plus tomorrow at 2 p.m. for the E-Road Power Stage. Thanks again for joining us.